Hello and welcome to Hablar Patata. First of all, I want to say I think it's so cool that you want to learn my language, respect. I know that German is not always easy, but it's also not a mission impossible. And I hope I can help you a little bit on this journey. As you notice, my English is not perfect, but I decided to make these videos in English and Spanish because I think I speak these languages well enough to explain the basic grammar of my language. And I got to know a lot of people who wanted to learn German but didn't have the resources or access to classes. So I hope by doing this I can help a little. You will also notice that I'm not yet very skilled in editing videos. So I apologize in advance for any weird reflections or weird transitions in the video. I'm in the process of learning it and I just hope to do better in the future. Before we start, I have two suggestions. When we learn a language, I think sometimes it's hard to see the progress that we already made. We focus on the things we didn't learn yet, that we didn't understand yet, and we get frustrated. Have you ever seen those videos, those TikTok videos, for example, from people filming their transformation when they lose a lot of weight, and then you see the before and after? I think this is a great way to make your progress visible. So this is my idea. I'm going to show you a text in German and you will try to read it. It will be so hard to read it, to pronounce well the words, or to even understand it. But I assure you that in around 5 videos, you will be able to read it, to pronounce well the words, and to understand it. I hope by this you will see your progress and keep being motivated. My second suggestion for you is, if you have any friend or a person close to you who's also curious about learning German, grab this person and study together. You're learning a language, so why not try to start right away speaking it? Also, I think it's always good to have a little competition. This will keep you focused and disciplined. And maybe sometimes I explain the things in a way you don't understand, but your friend does and can help you with it. And the other way around, if you explain what you just learned, it will help you so much to really understand and learn it. The best way of learning anything is to explain it. So I think that's all for now. Let's start with the first class. Regelmäßige Verben, regular verbs in German. Los geht's! So, regelmäßige Verben. This weird letter over here, we pronounce this as a sharp S. But we'll get to that in a different video. Okay, so what exactly are regelmäßige Verben, regular verbs? First of all, verbs. We can define verbs as a category of words that express a certain action. So when I ask you, what are you doing? For example, I drink coffee. Drink would be the verb, okay? From the grammatical point of view, we can say that verbs are a category of words that we have to conjugate. So here you see 3 different verbs in their basic form. The basic form is called infinitive. And the characteristic of verbs is that we have to conjugate them. That means that we put a new ending to them. Okay? So, before we start with the conjugation, let's quickly see these verbs, okay? Kommen means to come in the context of to come from a place, okay? So in English you usually say I am from a country, but in German we would say I come from a country, okay? So kommen, to come, wohnen would be reside, and lernen would be to learn. In English you might also use it in the context of study, but in German we differentiate between studieren and lernen. So anything that has to do something with studying, that would be at the university. So right now you are learning German, but you're not studying German because you're not at the university, okay? Okay, so now we have this other word here, regelmäßig, regular. That means that the verbs that we see here, all the regular verbs, they follow the same pattern of conjugation. That means that we only take away the ending and add a new ending according to the pronoun that we use. Okay? So that's always the same pattern. That's why they are called regular verbs. When we talk about grammar, there are some terms that we have to learn and understand because they are the tools that we need when we talk about grammar. So, we already talked about verbs, we talked about regelmäßig, and we talked about the basic form that is not conjugated, and it's called infinitive. Now we have to talk about the pronouns, in German, Pronomen. So, let's see that now. The pronouns tell us which ending we have to add to the verbs when we conjugate them, okay? So, in German we differentiate between, sorry for the sound, singular, which means that we're talking about or to just one person, and plural, which means that we are talking about or to at least two people or more. So, let's go through the different pronouns now. The first person singular is ich, which would be I in English. The second one is du. Du would be you in English, but if you're talking to only one person. And then we have the third person singular, and here we differentiate between different genders, but these are the grammatical genders and not biological genders, okay? So, the first one, would be he. Be careful here, the R is not pronounced like r or r, it's like an A, okay? The second one, sie, would be she in English. And as you noticed, I don't say sie or something like this. The E here in this context prolongs the I. So, sie, not sie, sie. And this one here is S, that would be it in English. And here I noted down man because it's actually the same conjugation. This would be like people in general, but we will ignore this for now when we're talking about the conjugation. But you can just remember it already, it will be helpful for you, but for now it's not important. So, then we have the first person plural, which would be wir, in English, we. The W in English is pronounced with the teeth on the lips, wir. And here again, the R is not r or r, it's wir. The second one, ihr, which would be you in English, but when you're talking to at least two or more people. And the last one, sie and sie. There's no difference in the pronunciation, but you can see that there is a difference in the writing. This one has a capital letter. So when we talk, we won't see a difference with the pronunciation, but there is a difference in the social context. And also when you write, you have to be careful which one you are using. Okay? So this one here, sie, this would be they. This one over here with the capital letter is you in English, but in a very respectful way. So anytime that you're talking, for example, to elderly people, to people that you don't know, to someone who's higher in the hierarchy, you will use sie, okay? And the conjugation of the verb would be the same. Now you might ask, how can I know which one is the right sie? There will always be a social context and you will know. But it's true that sometimes when we learn from textbooks, there is no context and it's actually hard to know which one is meant in the exercise, but don't worry, in the real life you will always have a social context and you will know if you're talking about her or if you're talking about them or if you're talking to someone in a polite way. Okay? So now let's see how the conjugation of the verbs actually works according to the different pronouns. Let's conjugate our first verb, kommen. The verbs in German in their basic form usually end on en. There are some exceptions, but the big part always ends on en. Okay? When we conjugate the verb, we have to add a new ending according to the pronoun. So my technique is this. I cut off the ending en and I add the new ending according to the pronoun. So for ich, the ending would be e. For du, the ending would be st. For RCS, the ending would be just t. For wir, the ending would be en. For ihr, the ending would be t. And for sie, the ending would be en again. So, let's test this technique. I will take away the ending en. And then I have ich komme. Careful here, this sound is not e, it's a. Don't make the same face as I do, but this is a, okay? Ich komme. Du kommst. Sie, es kommt. Wir kommen. Ihr kommt. Und sie kommen. This was quite easy, right? So, let's test this technique with the other two verbs. So, wohnen, to reside. I will take away the ending and I will test the conjugation. Ich wohne, du wohnst, sie, es wohnt, wir wohnen, ihr wohnt und sie wohnen. And the same with the last one, lernen. Okay? So, here, let's be careful again with this letter R. Okay? This is not pronounced like R or R. In this case, it's also pronounced more like an A. Okay? So this would make this conjugation here, ich lerne. Two weird sounds. Lerne. Okay? Du lernst. Sie, es lernt. Wir lernen. Und sie lernen. Great. Now you already know how the conjugation of the regular verbs works. Now, let's conjugate all of them real quick, memorize them, and practice the pronunciation. Before we go through the conjugation, let's remember some particularities about the pronunciation, okay? So, this sound over here, the E, we pronounce it like a, okay? Here, the W will be the. And the H that's following the O will prolong the vowel, so it's wohne, okay? Not that long, but yeah. And here we have the R. It's not R, it's not R, it's more like an A, so leer, okay? I made some notes here so you can see the verbs in a context. The verb kommen is almost always followed by the preposition aus, which would be the German version of from. Ich komme aus Deutschland. You could as well say, ich komme aus Belgien. Ich komme aus Syrien. Ich komme aus Peru. Okay? Wohnen in almost all the contexts is followed by in. where you reside, okay? Ich wohne in Berlin, ich wohne in Damaskus, sie wohnt in Teheran, okay? And the last one here, the object of your phrase, so what you are actually learning in this context, German, Deutsch. So, I can say ich lerne Deutsch, I can say ich lerne Spanisch, du lernst Arabisch, sie lernt Persisch, wir lernen Englisch. Okay? Now, let's go through the conjugation. Let's do this one a little bit slower. Okay? So, this would be ich komme. Du kommst. Er, sie, es kommt. Wir kommen. Ihr kommt. Und sie kommen. Now, let's add a little bit of rhythm or spice to it, okay? Here I will only say er, okay? But you remember that it's not only er, it's also sie or es. And here we will just say sie once, okay? And let's give it a little bit of rhythm, okay? So this is always helpful when we want to memorize something. So this one here would be ich wohne, du wohnst, er wohnt. Wir wohnen, ihr wohnt, sie wohnen. Okay? And the last one here, ich lerne, du lernst, er lernt. Wir lernen, ihr lernt, sie lernen. Okay? So, I think that was easy. Let's test if you really understood the conjugation. Now I have some phrases for you and you have to fill in the right verb with the right ending, okay? So, the context of the phrase will always tell you which verb would be adequate. Is it kommen, wohnen, or lernen? To come, to reside, or to learn. And the pronouns or names will indicate which ending would be correct for the verb, okay? There are some new words, so let's go through them real quick. So, auch would mean also or to. Hamburg is a city in Germany. Brasilien would be Brazil. Russland would be Russia. Here we have two names, so careful, that's two people. Berlin is the capital of Germany. Oh, and here und means and in English. And aber would be but. This is a name, and München is also a city in Germany. Hip-hop, here I'm talking about a music style, okay? I'm not gonna tell you what these verbs mean because I just want you to focus on the right conjugation, okay? So, Fußball is football or soccer as you like. Haruto is a name, Sophia is a name. Viel means a lot. And Sport would be sports. And the last weird or new word here is zusammen, which means together. So, good luck with this exercise. Enjoy. Now let's go through this together. So, if you remember, Deutsch is the language. So, the only adequate verb of the three verbs that we learned so far would be lernen. And the right ending for ich would be e. So this one here would be lerne. Ich lerne Deutsch. And I'm asking the other person, du, the right ending would be st. So I'm asking, lernst du auch Deutsch? Lernst du auch Deutsch? Here we have a hint, we have the preposition in and a city. So the right verb would be reside. And we have this pronoun here, and the ending for this pronoun is t. So I would say, wohnt. Wohnt ihr auch in Hamburg? Here we have this preposition, and that's a hint for the verb kommen. That's our pronoun, so the ending is st. Kommst du aus Brasilien? Here again we have the same preposition, and we have the third person singular, er, so the ending will be t. Kommt. Here I have two people, Max and Maria. Okay, so I can replace those two names by a pronoun. If I say blah and blah, I could say they, right? So in German, sie, and the correct ending for this verb would be en. I have this preposition here, in, so I would say wohnen. But Sarah, so a single person, in München, so I would say the right ending for the third person singular is just T. Max und Maria wohnen in Berlin, aber Sarah wohnt in München. Now we have the new verbs. Let's remember, we cut away en and add the right ending. In this context, for do, the ending is st. So I know this letter here is new, but we'll get to that later. This one here would be du hörst Hip-Hop. Then we have spielen. We cut away en, and we have one person here, the third person singular, so the ending will be just T. So I will say Sophia spielt Fußball. The same over here. Let's take away the ending. Haruto. It's a guy's name, so the third person singular, I will also add a T. Haruto macht viel Sport. And the last one, kochen. Kochen means to cook. So, du und ich, wir. And the right ending for wir is en. So, wir kochen zusammen. Ich lerne Deutsch. I learn or I study German. Lernst du auch Deutsch? Do you also study German? Wohnt ihr in Hamburg? Do you live in Hamburg? For several people. Kommst du aus Brasilien? Are you from Brazil? Er kommt aus Russland. He is from Russia. Max und Maria wohnen in Berlin, aber Sarah wohnt in München. Max and Maria, or Maria, live in Berlin, but Sarah lives in München. Du hörst Hip-Hop. You listen to Hip-Hop. Sophia spielt Fußball. Sophia plays soccer. Haruto macht viel Sport. Haruto does a lot of sports. He's very sportive. There's not a literal translation. Du und ich, wir kochen zusammen. You and I, we cook together. Congrats if you lasted until now. You already learned how to conjugate the regular verbs in German. I'm going to show you a list with other verbs that are regular that you can practice with, and I'm going to show you some clusters with phrases that you can use or memorize, and you can keep practicing and studying. And even better, if you practice with your partner, you can ask each other about the vocabulary, go through the conjugation, and I'll see you in the next class. That will be about the irregular verbs in German. Have a nice day.